not many will say, but he's the GOAT to me.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome. That's all I got to say. All right, we got NFL out of the way. Now we're going to transition into the political part, the weird mix of my title, NFL playoffs and gun control. So it's kind of a weird, pretty weird mix, but it's going to be a really good discussion here going on. And so we're going to talk about gun control, this second part of the podcast. And I'm really excited because Blake actually has a different view on this than me. And so we're going to have a pretty good dialogue. I'm really excited about it because I've been looking for someone to be able to have a really good dialogue with about just like a difference in opinions. There's nothing wrong with that. And so starting off, before we like start debating or anything, I just want to try to find like some common ground. That's the best way to like have an argument. And so just find a common ground. Do you support like the Second Amendment and that citizens should be able to own firearms?
Well, of course, I'm not part of that extremist party that's saying like, get rid of all guns, because that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, for sure.
That causes chaos. I'm not part of that extremist party.
Yeah, okay, good. I just wanted to make sure about that. We both can agree on that the Second Amendment, citizens should be able to own guns.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm guessing where we have different opinions is like what stems from that, like what guns you can and can't own, and like restrictions on guns and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so if you could
that's where my opinion differs from.
Okay, yeah, for
most
sure.
people are Christians.
Yeah, for sure. And so you can just kind of share your position real quick if you want to give like a brief, like background of what you believe about it, and like some like info about what you believe. So you can share.
Yeah, I didn't really like have a strong opinion on this until a scenario like involving guns happened with me, like with the shooting at the rave when I was working that night.
Yeah, I got you.
And that really, that'll shape someone's worldview.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely, because that was terrifying.
Oh yeah.
So
I bet.
I don't know what kind of gun it was. That was never released. No one died, but one man did get injured, shot in the leg.
Yeah, that's terrible.
A passerby.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I just think I don't feel like the government is doing enough to stop all of the gun violence. I found a website that I think everyone should look at.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Gun Violence Archive. It's really interesting. I found it today.
Yeah.
It gives all the stats on how many gun-related crimes, incidents, accidental shootings, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And the stats are pretty startling. So I feel like I think that's something else we can agree on.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Something needs to happen to stop all these mass shootings.
We can definitely agree on that gun violence is a terrible thing and that mass shootings are a horrible thing. And I guess it'd be like a different opinion on how we prevent those things from happening.
Right.
So I'd love to hear
there's no clear-cut answer to that.
Oh yeah, no, for not really. So I'd love to hear like what do you think the government should do? Like, I know you don't have a clear-cut answer, but like what do you think the government should do to prevent stuff like that from happening?
Mm-hmm. See, that's like I said, no clear-cut answer. You acknowledge that. That's where it's tough. There are some laws in place. Like, I can't deny that. There already are laws. There are some background checks.
Yeah, you can't get a firearm if you have a criminal record or you're a felon or you have a mental illness. So those are in place. Yeah.
But the problem is, like, those background checks have slipped up a few times. I believe it was the Florida shooter. Was it the Florida shooter? Oh, who was it? It was a recent one.
Okay.
It was that kid who, I think, killed 7 people.
Okay.
There's also that person at the, the mosque.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. When he attacked them, he also had mental illness, and he still found a way to get a gun.
Yeah.
So that's where, I'm not sure how he got it. I don't remember if he purchased it illegally. I don't know. It was a registered gun. He did get that legally. So somewhere in the background check, something slipped up.
Yeah.
Something went wrong, and he got this gun, and he committed the crime with the gun.
Mm-hmm.
So the background check, what is it? Do you know how the background check works exactly?
I'm not really actually sure, but I know it does kind of go through like your criminal record and like check if you have any mental illnesses, like I said. But I'm not sure. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's pretty extensive to a point. But I'm not really sure. I'm not really master at how to buy a firearm.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Let me look this up real quick. I think it's just done by the person at the store.
Okay.
Or they might send it in somewhere. How to? I'm going to Google it. That's unprofessional. Let's keep talking.
So, do you think
we'll talk about that.
So you said that the government is not doing enough to
Yes,
prevent stuff like this from happening. So, do you think that like limiting the guns you can buy, or more extensive background checks, or I mean, I don't know like what you're implying when you say that.
This is a big argument, like that. This is where the two sides split a lot. America can agree there's too much gun violence. Everyone can agree on that.
Yeah.
The side split where is it the guns that are the problem, or is it the people that are the problem?
Yeah.
And this is where I'm going to put it back to the guns.
Okay.
I'm going to say the guns are the problem.
Okay. People
are able to obtain them too much. And, it's good people, it's bad people. There's all kinds of things. But when you look at the stats here, there have been 55,907 number of gun incidents, 14,000 deaths, and it goes through number of children killed, number of teens killed, mass shootings, and then there's home invasion, and there's defensive use. So that's the whole self-defense argument. There are 55,907 incidents of gun-related injuries or deaths. Only 1,700 of those were for self-defense. So that's a huge discrepancy to me. So that to me kind of like hurts the whole self-defense thing. I do agree that people should be able to defend themselves, obviously.
Yeah. So,
but the types of guns that people are buying for this, like not necessarily military grade, though some shootings have happened with military grade weapons. Some of the more powerful ones that people consider used for hunting, but you live in the big city, all that stuff. You're not going to go hunting with it. All of those, there needs to be tighter restrictions on that. The power of the arms.
Okay.
You can use.
So you said that only 17,000 result in self-defense.
1,700.
1,700. Is that
1,700.
When someone fires the gun in self-defense, or like someone defending himself by pointing? Like
this is all the data here is taken from like news reports and government reports.
Okay.
So of course, unless you're in this situation, you can't see what's happening. But the defensive use it could be a claim of self-defense, or it could be witnessed. Someone was attacking. Like there's an incident here of an active gunman being taken down by two people in Oklahoma. That's self-defense.
Yeah.
Like that's something I can agree with.
Yeah.
But that's 1,700 of just whether it's claims or it actually happened, self-defense.
Yeah. That's kind of interesting because I've seen some different stats about that. I've heard some different stats about like I've heard like over 1 million have been used like in self-defense, or that's a mix between like them actually firing the gun and them actually just like pointing the gun at someone and saying, don't touch me or get off my property or something like that.
Right.
So,
and that's another thing you can think that's probably 1 million in total, but this is just in the past year.
Okay.
So
Yeah. I got you.
And these are just like when someone actually got injured. So I'm sure it is a good intimidating factor for sure. Like if someone at the movie tavern got robbed at knife point a month ago. Yeah. If my man had a gun or something, that's not going to do anything.
For sure. Yeah, and that's where we can agree on it. Is that guns are a good thing to have for self-defense. There's a lot of crazy people in the world out there. I'm sure we can agree on that. And I mean, it's definitely a good thing to be able to protect yourself from those crazy people. But you said something about like military grade weapons.
Yes.
You said like higher restrictions.
I've done like the Vegas shooting with some military grade weapons.
Okay. So do you think an AR-15 is a military grade weapon?
AR-15 has a lot of uses. But I feel like, I'm not a hunter.
Okay.
I've heard someone say they use it for hunting. I don't have any relation to that, but I feel like it's done a lot of damage. You hear of a lot of stories of shootings done, like some of the mass shootings done, or with the AR-15.
Yeah, but then an AR-15, do you think it stands for assault rifle, or do you know?
I'm not well versed in what it exactly stands for. I assumed.
A lot of people just place the blame on like AR-15s, and they say it's assault rifles. But actually, what AR stands for is Armalite rifle, and so AR-15s have never been used militarily. If you brought an AR-15 on the battlefield, you'd probably die in 30 minutes. They've been. It's called, the NRA calls it America's rifle because over 8 million people own them. A lot of people love them because they're fun to shoot. I know a couple people that have them. They're really fun to shoot. And what was I gonna say? Something about over 90% of mass shootings. I know there's specific instances of, AR-15s being used.
Right.
I think the guy in Vegas had like a bump stock on it. So he was able.
Did.
Yeah. And so automatic AR-15s are actually illegal now. But he had a bump stock on it, which converts a semi-automatic to basically an automatic gun. So, but all the statistics, I've looked at a lot of statistics about like what mass shootings happen with, like what guns are used.
Right.
And the majority of them, like over 90% of them, close to 90% or over 90%, depends on what stat you look at, they occur with handguns.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's in the single digits of what percentage of mass shootings occur with AR-15s or, guns like that.
Yeah, I looked at that stat because I saw in the Gun Violence Archive, it's been 337 mass shootings, so I just did a quick search. What constitutes a mass shooting?
Is it like 4 or more people dead or something like that?
It just said multiple.
Okay.
So it's more than one, so it's not one-on-one violence. Like today, see, some people have personal opinions on this. I don't think if it's 2 people that really constitutes a mass shooting, it kind of sounds like a fear tactic, calling something a mass shooting. But this morning in Arkansas, a woman and a child were in Little Rock, actually, were shot dead. And that was just this morning over on, I think it's on the east side, is what it said.
Okay.
Something I found on this site. And that would fall under the mass shooting column. So, so it just depends on what you call a mass shooting. A lot of handguns, like in the gang world, you might do a drive-by and kill 4 or 5 people. I might consider that a mass shooting. Or if like you're trading shots with someone, and other people get hurt, I might consider that as a mass shooting.
Yeah. I mean, mass shootings.
This side has that C-37.
Yeah, mass shootings happen in Chicago just about every single night.
Yeah.
I was looking at stats.
It's those 2 people, yeah.
Yeah, and I was looking at stats, and Chicago has like some of the strictest gun control laws in the whole entire country. And over 1,500 people were killed in Chicago due to gun violence last year, and that's like an average of 4 a day. And so they have really tight laws on like obtaining firearms, and they still have this humongous with the gangs, and they have this humongous problem with gun violence. Yeah.
So here's the thing with that. I've heard that argument before. Like a friend of mine once said, like meth is illegal, but meth is illegal. Still, people get it. Weed's technically illegal, and that's a whole other issue we get in later. Yeah. But weed's illegal, and people still get it. It's more of making a statement. Chicago, like, they do have strict laws, and, I applaud them for that, for trying to, like, stop this most dangerous city in the world,
Yeah.
That's good, but clearly, with these stats that you just gave, that's still not enough. And now, this is when the extremists will come in and be like, yeah, get rid of all the guns, but I just can't say that's a good idea, either.
I think
because I don't have a clear-cut situation, but clear-cut solutions.
Yeah, I got you. I just think if you're going to take away, like, would you be in favor of taking away AR-15s?
Oh, that's a tough question.
Yeah.
Based on the stat you just gave me, it's really hard for me to say. I feel like they have done, and they do have the potential to do a lot of damage, even though it's not what it's used for most of the time.
Yeah.
I think if it ever hits that threshold of above, like, if it ever hits the double digits, or maybe that 15% that you gave, that could constitute taking away that gun, because it is a powerful gun. Not saying it's military grade. Okay. Like you said, you'd go into the battlefield and die in 30 seconds. It's not going to do enough. But I do feel like when you're talking about in our own country, not over borders, not in war, in our own country, right now I'd say don't take it away. But if worse comes to worse and this violence keeps happening, something does have to be done.
Okay.
And that may include taking away the AR-15.
Yeah, and I think earlier you said like the argument splits between is it the people or is it the guns. Right. I'm definitely on the people side.
Yeah, I mean that's fair.
I would say because I look at these stats of the amount of shooters and like the percentage of them that don't have fathers in the home and like they grow up foster kids, and I think a lot of this is definitely a societal issue where we create a culture where kids don't have fathers. And so they join gangs so they want to feel accepted, and so it just leads to all sorts of other violence in their life. And I don't think it's the gun's fault. because the gun doesn't pull the trigger for itself. I'm sure you've heard that before.
Yeah.
But I mean, the gun itself. I mean, you can have a gun. Say you have a concealed carry. You have a gun on your hip.
Right.
Just because you have a gun on your hip, it's not dangerous. It's only dangerous when you fire it. But having a passive gun on your hip isn't dangerous at all. It's just defending yourself. And so I'd definitely say it's a people issue, because the people are the one firing the guns. I mean, that's where we can disagree on it.
Well, yeah, and there's no doubt. Like, some of these shooters, a lot of the mass shooters, like the Columbine shooters, the Vegas shooter, they've had horrible lives.
Oh,
it
yeah.
even extends to murder. Like, you look at Ted Bundy, you look at the Green River killer, the other dude in Washington. They all had terrible lives growing up. Sexually assaulted, physically assaulted, all of that. And they went and murdered people because of that.
Yeah, that's terrible.
So there's no doubt that the home life can have an effect on who the person is. And that has happened in the shooters.
Yeah.
But then you also see all the other people with bad home lives. Depression right now and mental health issues is at an all-time high.
Yeah.
With, like, the spotlight being shown on that. There's a lot of people with these problems. And it is like the people express in different ways, whether it be through art or it could be something physical, like hurting yourself, or as a shooter might, hurting others. So, they do the mental health background check, and I don't know how strict that is, though, because with depression being at an all-time high, you could see on someone's list, like they were diagnosed with depression or anxiety or something like that, and they can just skip right over that and think, all right, well, I mean, that's what everyone has now. So that's where it kind of hurts the gun control. Now, as for, like, the gun being dangerous itself, I tend to lean on the side, like when people say people playing violent video games will cause them to go out and kill someone. Something like that. That's a stupid argument. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean,
people say, like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't really agree with that either. But what were you saying about the gun?
The gun being dangerous itself.
Okay, so you don't think the gun by itself is not dangerous?
The gun by itself, I think it gives people that option.
Okay.
I think there's I believe that in this situation, there's the fight or flight thing. You might hear gunshots, and you may pull out your gun. That can be for protection, or it could just be a misunderstanding. And people will be trigger happy. They could be quick to defend themselves, defend themselves in quotes, when there's really nothing going on. And here's another thing that happened at the rave that also solidified my stance on that. After the shooting happened, everyone was in a panic. Everyone was back inside the lobby. And my manager sent me to go hand out free passes. And it's terrifying. And it's a rough crowd that night. So I went out into the lobby. Hundreds of people in there. I was handing out free passes. People were running up on me, trying to steal them from me. Just a bunch of hooligans.
Yeah.
And I heard gunshots in the lobby, or what everyone thought was gunshots. So everyone took off running in one way. It turned out to be some kid just knocked over a metal sign, but it sounded exactly like gunshots. So where the problem would lie there is if someone does have this concealed carry, and they did bring it into the building, then they could have started firing in that direction in an attempt to stop what was thought to be an active shooter, causing more people to get hurt. Okay. So I think guns give people the option to fight back even when there is nothing left to fight, when there's nothing to fight, when it's not your fight to fight. Like with the Vegas shooting, how Dan Bill's there, and that video came out of him yelling at a cop, like, give him a gun to go fight. I'm glad he did not have a gun there. Yeah. Because that man's just insane.
Yeah.
So that's my stance on the whole. Guns aren't dangerous by themselves. I believe they just give people the option to become more dangerous.
Okay. So when you go through the whole concealed carry process, you're actually, taught how to fire the gun, taught how to carry the gun, and you know what gunshots sound like. I know it's probably really scary for you in that situation where something fell from in a massive crowd where people, follow the crowd, and something falls and it sounds a big noise. But I mean, a concealed carry citizen, they know what they're doing with the gun. I mean, there's countless instances of concealed carriers stopping criminals, stopping shooters, stuff like that. I don't know why we never hear about those, I'd love to be able to hear about those instead of the, big giant mass shootings where, 10 people are killed. That's terrible.
Right.
But I mean, definitely if you're a concealed carrier, you know what to do with a gun, and you're going to be responsible with the gun. And I just don't see, having a gun on your hip, if you know how to use the gun, and probably all concealed, I wouldn't say all, but most concealed carriers have it on their hip, to protect their family, to protect themselves, and they know how to use it because they've been trained. And so I would just say having the gun on your hip is a passive thing, and if it needs to be an aggressive thing, you can pull it out if someone's threatening you or your family, and you know when that's happening. But I don't think having the gun on your hip by itself makes you more, what'd you say, more...
I said it gives you the option to become more dangerous.
It gives you the option to become more dangerous.
Right.
So...
And see, in an ideal world, that would be how it's all used. This site, it's a company that's based out of D.C. that collects all of this and fact checks all of them. Okay. And that's where the stats surprised me that only 1,700 were used for that reason. Now, like we said earlier in this recording, we don't know what exactly defines self-defense.
Yeah.
But surely someone getting injured and stopping the robber and killing them has been taken into account for.
Yeah.
And in the ideal world, first off, I love the concealed carry process. That's a great system put into place.
Yeah.
Make sure people truly know
for sure
what they have on them. That's a great system.
Yeah.
But I lost my train of thought. Okay. So the concealed carry is a great system.
Yeah.
But still, it's just when you see the use of the guns, like they said, 1,700 out of the 55,000 have actually been used for the self-defense.
Okay. That's
where it gets me to and there's another thing in that. They need to take into account for the human factor. Like people say, they know what a gunshot sounds like.
Yeah.
All the people there at the raid did. Then there was the salt bowl incident where people claimed a million different things. Was it a gun? Was it a taser?
Yeah.
Was it any of that?
Crazy.
People don't really know what went down that night.
Yeah.
So imagine if another person did manage, first off, gun banned from War Memorial. So that should have been kind of a clue, but people aren't thinking about that in that situation.
Yeah.
So imagine if someone did actually have a gun in there, and another person had a gun. I was talking to a security guard who works at the tavern who also worked at Supple that night. He said 16 people were injured, not from a gun, not from a taser, not from all of the rumors, but from trampling over each other.
Yeah, just going
There's
crazy.
There's a fear tactic.
Yeah.
So that goes back to my point. Like, what if someone does have this gun? There wasn't one that I know of at War Memorial that night, but they started firing towards that sound. Now, not everyone's going to be that trigger happy, obviously.
Oh yeah,
it's just hypothetical. But it's in my mind with the raves thing happening to be in the Salt Bowl, happening to Little Rock. I fear that someone will be that trigger happy, and someone will see themselves as a hero, as Dan Bilzerian did, and try and stop something but causing more damage.
Yeah.
And that's if they, the concealed carry thing's great. That's how to legally get a gun, legally be allowed to carry it on you.
Yeah.
But as we've seen, a lot of people don't really have that license who still own guns.
Mm-hmm.
So this falls back on the government to either make a tighter stance and make it more unobtainable, even though there's already solid laws in place.
Yeah.
It just feels to me that there needs to be more to stop these 27,000 deaths a year.
Yeah, I got you. I just want to know, implying, what more action do you think? But you said there's no really clear-cut answer on that. And so I think the government really wouldn't know either. Because, if you go into Texas and say, give us your guns. If you go into Arkansas and say, give us your guns, that's not going to be a good thing.
Oh, no. You're
And
bullet instead of guns.
Yeah, for sure. So, the whole thing about having guns and having, these weapons is to be able to defend yourselves from internal threats and to be able to defend yourself from external threats like the government or, invaders or something like that.
Right.
So can you agree that, the Second Amendment is there for citizens to be able to stop external threats like the government from becoming tyrannical?
So you're saying this kind of a balance of power type thing?
Yeah.
So kind of, I can agree that's what it was put in place for.
Mm-hmm.
Because, that was the whole thing. When it was made, 1791, that was a thing. You know, after they got the British off, then the British would go and take guns, do all that stuff. That was set in place for that situation. But that was also 200 years ago. I feel like I think everyone can agree that times have changed over 200 years. And while that is the intended use of it, like, there's intended use for a lot of things, but people don't do it like that.
Okay.
You know, while it was the intended use, that's not what the times are like now.
Okay.
Now,
but I mean, there was.
I don't see any real way that the government can come and have that power to, like, just come barge in your homes and do whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's a different, like I said, it's a different time. There's more balance.
Okay. So, like, going back to, you said it's like different time now. People are using it for what it's not intended for. I mean, if you look back in the 1790s, all throughout, you know, up until now, I mean, there's been tons of shootings. I mean, if you look at when George Washington was president, I mean, there was these militias that, you know, fought, and there's shootings everywhere. And he could have said right there, you know, we're banning guns from being used domestically and stuff like that. But he didn't, because he knew that'd be a tyrannical suggestion. And if he did that, then he'd be overthrown, because it just happened with the British. And so I think we can't, because, I mean, it's similar. People really don't change that much. I mean, there was still gun violence back in the 1800s, all throughout the 1900s, and it still happens today. We just see it on a larger scale because of, you know, the media and news outlets and stuff like that. But I mean,
is it the media that's okay? Actually, yeah, the media is definitely, there's better coverage of it.
Oh yeah.
Now, what the media, like you said earlier, I can agree with you. The media makes its money off of scaring people, so they are going to report the mass shootings and not the heroes that stop them more often.
Yeah.
But there is better coverage of it, so that could be a reason why we hear more of it. But it's also like, it's just hard for me to, like, being able to compare this time to 1791, when we needed people to rise in arms and fight against the British or the invading tactics.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is where the democratic view of bigger government comes in. Like, I would like to believe that the government could protect us. Like, if Russia, you know, big enemy who does have the power to invade us, does invade, I would like to believe that the government would be able to stop them, and they wouldn't need us civilians to have the guns to fight this battle.
Yeah, and it's also for that, but it's also for, like, your internal threat of your own government becoming too powerful. And you look at all these other countries with, like, the government taking away people's guns, and then it automatically, I mean, pretty much automatically we see that after they take away the citizens' guns, when they unarm the citizens, it just leads to abuse of power.
Mm-hmm.
And so
that's where the United States is great.
Yeah.
Because you can't have that abuse of power. You know, God bless America. You can't have that abuse of power. We got the checks and balances.
Yeah,
the government, someone will stop it. So this is where I will fight for the Second Amendment right. I do believe people should have guns.
Yeah.
But it's getting to a point where the number of deaths, the number of cop shootings, the number of everything that's going on, these injuries, something has to be done to put a stop to it. Now, the extremists will say, like, take away all the guns. And I believe if we even hit that 150,000 mark of incidents a year, maybe that could constitute for some guns being taken away. I'm not talking for a nationwide movement to take away all guns.
Okay.
I'm saying maybe certain areas. I don't know.
I just think,
but I feel like the government,
within that argument, if you say, okay, we're going to ban this gun because it's, you know, too powerful, or we're going to ban this gun because it shoots, its magazine is too big, or it shoots too many bullets at a certain amount of time. Right. I just don't know where that line would stop, you know? Like, say you ban AR-15s. There's tons of other guns out there that you can buy that are semi-automatic, just like an AR-15, that can shoot the same amount of rounds as an AR-15 can in the same amount of time. So I just think if you're going to push for, you know, a group of guns being banned or something like that, then you're just going to have all guns banned in the end, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. That is the fear of the domino effect.
Yeah.
And that is a logical conclusion. Like, once one falls, the next one, the next one, the next one.
Yeah.
And I would like to believe we wouldn't get to that point where after we take away a gun, there's still going to be a lot of shootings. And then we take away that gun, and then it's going to increase. I don't feel like that would be the effect. I don't feel like if we take away the AR-15, that's going to cause more shootings. But like I said, this isn't something we've done. We don't really know the result. We're in a time where we're kind of in the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, no clear-cut answer. There's no 100% way to stop all gun violence. That's never going to happen.
Yeah. But I mean, going back to
willing
about...
to bet that if we, make movements to stop, to, put tighter restrictions and maybe eventually take away guns in small parts, then maybe the numbers would drop.
Okay. So going a little difference in that, going back to around the 1950s, 1940s,
Sure.
people had machine guns, and they banned automatic weapons have been really tightly restricted, and you really can't own an automatic weapon anymore. And so we see that citizens really only have semi-automatic weapons nowadays, and gun crime is up. So if you go back to 1950, 1940, where gun crime was down and there wasn't as many restrictions on guns as there is now, I just don't see the correlation between tighter restrictions and less gun violence.
Right. See, I understand that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now that is still an argument. Today, you could say that number's dropped because there's been more people are having guns, more people are able to protect themselves. Mm-hmm. But also, when you look at the 1950s, there's more to it than just those stats. You have to look at what was going on that time. We had a full-blown race war. The whole segregation, all those Jim Crow laws, there was more reasons to fight. The mafia was at an all-time high. We don't really deal with mafia today. We do still have gang members, but they weren't running the cities as much as the mafia was.
Yeah,
you have to look at the cultural aspect, too.
Yeah, but that's my point. You see, back in the 1950s, there was more hate now with the segregation and, like you said, the mafia. So wouldn't that be more of a reason for gun violence when there's less restrictions?
Hold up. Let's go back. So there's more hate. So you're saying there'd be reasons for more violence. So they should have had tighter gun restrictions at that time?
No, I'm saying that at that time there was less tight restrictions on guns, and there was less violence on guns compared to now when we have tighter restrictions and more violence with guns.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand that?
Well, I think I understand, but I feel like I'm just going back to the same point by saying you have to look at culture. There was more hate and there's less restrictions. So obviously now the hate's died down. We don't have to deal with. Obviously, it's not all gone. The whole Black Lives Matter movement, but the hate's definitely moved down since then. There's less of that. So it would only make sense that the gun violence and all the protests and all of those numbers have gone down as well.
Wait, gun violence has gone up, right?
Wait, did I say down?
Yeah.
No, wait, you said down.
Well, I said it was down back in the 1940s, 1950s.
Oh, you're saying it's gone up. Oh, okay.
Compared to now. So I said my argument. Yeah. My argument was saying that back in the 40s and 50s, when there was more discrimination, more hate, more tension, when there was less restrictions on guns, and the statistics were dramatically lower for gun violence as they are now, when there's more restrictions on guns and not as much tension, discrimination, and the amount of gun violence, the numbers have skyrocketed.
Okay, I follow your argument now. I thought we were kind of agreeing, but also arguing at the same
Okay,
time. I was a little confused on that.
Yeah.
Okay. No, and that is a solid question. Why, since hate's gone down, the violence has gone up?
Mm-hmm.
I would say, even though with tighter restrictions, the number of gun ownership back then wasn't as big as it is now.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they were able to own guns that were automatic, like machine guns. And we can barely own an automatic weapon. Just depends on what state you're in nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yes. Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. So the gun violence has gone up without having those automatic, with these tighter restrictions that have banned the automatic rifles, depending on where you are and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I get that. But now, and this could even fall back on the media, with the gun ownership. This could be now that there's better coverage of it, more people are getting guns, and it just makes sense. With more guns, more of these incidents are happening. Mm-hmm. So I would say tight restrictions, why has the violence gone up? That's a solid question.
Yeah, because I mean, you look at,
like,
I mean, over 95% of mass shootings occur in gun-free zones where you can't take a gun inside. And I mean, Las Vegas is a very specific instance where a dude,
right.
I would question the hotel security with that whole entire thing, because the dude was able to bring, he brought in some just crazy amount of weapons into that hotel room, and I would question the hotel security on that. But a lot of these shootings occur at, like, schools or churches. And a lot of these places are gun-free zones where people can't carry guns to defend themselves. And I feel like a gun-free zone is taking away their Second Amendment right.
Okay. Yeah, we have a sign of that over where I work, is you can't bring a gun in there.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I can see, like, since they do have this blanket statement, like, both sides are using, like, no guns, and then there's also citizens have the right to bear arms. This is where I feel like the change needs to be made. There needs to be little more subtle details, like you can have arms when ... Okay. You can bring guns in when ... See, I believe, like, if someone does have this concealed carry license and they have gone through this training and they do know what it is, and I feel like they should be able to have that where they go.
Okay, so you're putting a restriction on when people can carry their guns, or where?
Where? It's more of like, I wouldn't necessarily say when and where. I mean, I do think we can all agree guns don't belong in the school. And even though those restrictions haven't stopped school shootings, everyone can agree to that blanket statement.
I agree to what? Guns don't belong in school?
Yes.
Like security guards or what?
This is more referring to, like, like the teacher. People arguing that teachers need to be armed. I do think school security should, obviously have guns for our protection.
Mm-hmm.
But then, oh, wait. My bad. Okay.
I think we should just save that issue for another day.
There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to discuss.
Yeah, there's a lot to go on with, like, the schools and arming and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I feel like we've had a really awesome discussion. It's been
I've had a good time, man.
Yeah, it's been awesome. So, everybody, that's Blake DeJarnette, Audible Chocolate. We're about to close it out here. Blake, I'm so happy that you came on the show. Hopefully you can come on more. I'd love to have you on more. Yeah, definitely. I'm looking for a good co-host. So I'm
down.
You'd be a good description for it. So I'm excited. This was a really awesome show, Blake. Thanks for coming on and discussing with me.
Thanks for having me, brother.
G. Allen with All the Talk Podcast and Blake DeJarnette on the phone signing off. Make sure to like and subscribe. Share it with your friends. And, we're signing off, guys. Peace.